Hello. Yeah, this is a video idea that just came to mind to me because I kind of want routine with the channel, and as it grows, I think it's good for everyone so they know what to expect and what to see. The idea of this video is to do a sort of weekly roundup of what's been happening with Blue Steel, techs that have been happening, new strategies, new game plans. So I picked a few cards people have sort of asked questions about, sort of why they're coming into lists, why people are trying it, and sort of why ratios that certain cards are going up and down as well. But I think it'd be good, and of course, I'm going to also say if anyone has a good catchy name for this, please tell me, because all I can think right now is the BS Roundup, which I guess doesn't sound terrible. So I'm going to call it that. But if anyone has like anything going on, I mean, I play a hefty amount of Lorcana, and I'm in so many discords and stuff, so I always see the new techs. I always check ink decks for reports as well to see what's happening. So I'm hopefully what will happen from me doing this is we'll create an environment where, because you might not be able to play or whatever, but you can come watch this video once a week and sort of get a grasp of how Blue Steel has progressed, or like any new ideas and any new techs that have came in. So yeah, I mean, enough of that rambling. We'll start with I'll start with the two beasts. I'm going to pair them together as I explain this. So yeah, Hardhead Beast and Tragic Beast, both good cards. In Blue Steel, we kind of just have this thing of we need 5 costs to sing for us, so we need to ramp and play the 5 cost, and then we have to sing Holy World. So I'm going to put both of them in. Of course, for a while we were just putting in Hardhead because, I've explained in my other videos, at best he breaks an item and that like will win you a mirror, or that will win you like the Ruby Sapphire matchup, but it will give you a better chance of winning it. But you might have seen at your store, champs. I mean, I've seen a lot of mine. Ruby Amethyst is back and better than ever. It's literally everywhere, and it's all I seem to play into. Um, so yeah, and at that point, we don't need to break items anymore. So we don't need it as much. So people have gone to look at the Tragic Beast again, which was quite a common fit for set three. And it's really good. It draws you extra cards. Say if you didn't hit that whole new world, so you can't sing it, you can ramp up to the Tragic Beast and you draw an extra card for uh, before they can threaten to remove it with a Medusa, because I know that's a reason why a lot of people don't want to play this card because of Medusa. But before they can threaten to remove it, if you're on the play and you ramp up to this, so you ramp on 3 and play it on 4, you'll have 2 turns of draw before they'll get to a range of playing Medusa on it, because they'll have 6 ink at that point. On the play, you only get 1 turn because you're one behind. But yeah, I still don't think it's a bad thing. That draw is key in any card game at all. So if you're looking at thinking, okay, Hardhead Beast, the way I've described it, it's not working out for you. I haven't needed to break a lot of items. Uh, you can go back to Tragic Beast, and I think you'd still see a lot of good play in there. For me personally, I've don't really like the mirror, and I don't know every store champs I've been to, everyone's saying, "Hey, I'm in blue still because I watch these videos." I'm like, "Oh, now I have to play the mirror a lot." So he seems to do a lot of work in there, and I like that I can put item destruction on curve as well, which has been really nice. And setting up, you can also do something like not even just on curve, just later on, you take out a dime or whatever, and then you now have a 5 cost singer to sing Holy World or sing Grab Your Sword or sing whatever you need it to sing. So I'm still going to include it in my list. And I think a 4/4 with that and a Smee, you threaten to remove a castle. So yeah, I still like the card, but Tragic Beast I think as well. We're seeing it come back quite strongly. As I say, card draw is key. That and an Argus will take out a castle. So the math still works out quite fine. I think both cards are good. I mean, if you Tragic Beast does cost a lot of money, so maybe you don't want to invest in it just to try it out. But yeah, that's why we're sort of seeing it come back a bit. And later on in the game, what would you rather be if you're maybe in a top deck mode or whatever, versus say Green Steel or just any deck? Sometimes you just witter out to a top deck mode. You'd rather top deck a beast and potentially get more draw than Hardhead who just sits on the board and doesn't do anything. So yeah, Tragic's kind of back, and that's sort of coming to the fact that Ruby Sapphire isn't as prominent as it was before. Okay, I've been rambling on that beast a little bit, so I'm gonna go and talk to the next card. Talk to the next card. Talk about the next card. GM Pal is, I'm not going to say making waves. It's not hugely played. It is here and there, though. It is pretty good at not dying to Maui and also protecting your characters on board. So versus, uh, what was it, Red Purple, Its main application is in red purple as it doesn't die to a Maui. So you can exert it, and then they can't just like hit some things on the board and do some nice trades. Say you've got a Smee and a Mickey, and they've got a Snake or something on board that they could just take out your characters with. So that will exert, and it will most likely die because let's be honest, when you're wheeling, you're not at a point where their board's entirely empty, so they might be able to Maui and hit. But if they don't have the Maui, maybe they just didn't draw into it. You're still not in a bad spot. I mean, Fox and Crab does take it out, and Crab is sort of coming back because they need it for their mirror. But yeah, I mean, having exerted, you do force them to remove stuff that maybe they wouldn't want to remove, or do trades that they wouldn't want to remove. Into steel, of course, it's not amazing because they've got steel removal, so they can target what they want. I mean, even red can target a brawl. But if you're trying to stop challenging some of your weaker characters that you would like to just continue questing or continue sticking on the board, he's pretty good. I've even actually, as I say that, I will mention some players I've talked to said it does do work into green steel, just for the fact that it has 7 health, and they probably don't want to. We don't talk about Bruno it because it's a quester for 1. They probably might do it because they might need to remove it, but yeah, he's going to sit on board. He's got 7 health on turn 5. That's just really annoying for them, and then he can just hit things and take them out. So I'm not going to ever sell GMPL too much because I think having a 5 cost character that doesn't have 2 questing lore isn't amazing. Later on in the game, when you draw cards and you just want to dime tap things for 2, he's going to be kind of bad to play and then dime tap. And to play him, you're going to have to remove probably either Hardhead Beasts or something. I would not touch a Cogsworth. No, leave the Cogsworth in. But he's probably going to take a slot that one of the Beasts or would take, or one of that other extra 5 costs outside of Cogsworth would take up. Ariel, I'm putting on her. I mean, people, it's not like she's an uncommon card. It's not like anyone's like, oh, I've never seen Ariel played in the deck before. It's not like this is a new choice, but we're seeing higher ratios of it, and I played it today, and in the mirror, it felt like, when you play the mirror, it's who hits. Do you both hit me? Great. Do you both hit ramp? Great. Do you both hit Cogsworth? Great. Okay, but I think you can go one further with did you hit an Ariel? I think, and then an Ariel with the cogs, it makes them very hard to remove, and then you can keep applying pressure from there. Because in the mirror, it is just who's gonna like fall off their curve and miss something like the Smee, the ramp, the cogs. But now you can add like I've got an Ariel on top of that. I'm gonna play that down. So in the mirror, I think it's really good. I think it's a Ruby Sapphire. It's really good as well. So it's they don't play Big King Undisputed. If you make Tremaine awkward by just putting anything next to this thing, like a Smee or anything, it already makes them more awkward. They might Medusa and then Tremaine, but still, that's 12 ink, and that's like a whole turn, and they probably can't do that. Um, so we're seeing higher ratios of the card again. I think it's got. I've tried 2, and 2 wasn't really vibing for me. A lot of the times, I'd start with an opening hand or a different hand, and it was just like, I don't need to have 2 of these cards in my deck. I need to have 1, and it'd be nice to draw it. If I have to ink it early, that's kind of sad. I mean, I had a game today where like all my dime targets were very early on, and I just not didn't get to use any of them. But I don't think adding another area would have changed that. I was just unlucky at drawing them early. But I think having 1 on your list is completely, almost, it is very much needed. I did try the Gaston for a while. I prefer she takes up the slot because I found she can win you a game quite easily just by the fact that you play her on the board and they have no answer for her. So in loads of matchups as well, even into red purple, sometimes you can play her and they just don't have an answer for her. But I found with the Gaston, it was just he's just all round great. He's a 4/4, find you a card and quest for 3, but he wasn't winning me a game. He was just great to have in the deck, and it was an uninkable slot. And with blue steel, we kind of work with bad uninkable slots. We don't have a lot of space because we need the wheels, we need the Gravusaurs, we need the dimes. We're already packing the deck quite tightly. We need the ramp as well. Mickey or One Jump both have uninkable, so we're already working like 12, 13 uninkables. So yeah, I've kept her with 1, and she's done a lot of work for me. 2 would be fine. In the no wheel, you play a lot of her as well. You play like 3, because she's just great. She either forces really hard removal from them, or she gets you 5 lore. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about Ariel because I'm just saying that's what we're seeing ratios of her back in the decks. I think even in my head, the rankings of Dime Target was always sort of Tamator, I guess, is top because he can get you insane amounts of lore. Then Bell, then Ariel, but now I'm kind of putting Ariel above Bell on my rankings. I just like I like Belle for other things. I like that she gives you an extra ink on the turn. So if you had a quill set up, you can get 3 ink. Um, but yeah, that's why we're sort of seeing her played a bit more. She's just doing quite a lot of work. So yeah, 1 or 2 seems fine. Hercules is kind of he's I think he's just nice. It's a 2 quester, quite hard for people to remove. I think the biggest application in my head when I think of the card is that it can take out Hiram if exerted. That is kind of a pain because it will mean they will have gained 4 cards by that point because they will have played the Hiram and then quested with the Hiram and then you take it out. But on top of that, it's going to trade off so many things and probably still stick because of that 1 resist. It quests for 2. It wouldn't take the Tinkerbell slot because that's just locked in this list. But sometimes you might want to play Tinkerbell. And say if you're against RP, I mean, I'm just thinking of minor moments here. It's going to be harder for them to remove it. I mean, Maui will still do it, but it will trade 100% with the Maui, which is all right. They won't just have things on the board; they can run into it and take it out. Sometimes you play against RP and they've got a 2 drop and a 3 drop or whatever set up, and they can just hit your Cogsworth or your Tinkerbell and just take it out. And actually, those things die. But I think he's got a lot of applications. He's going to be awkward on the board. He's going to trade a lot. He's going to control the board a lot, and then yeah, he'll die to be prepared. But he's quite good. And as well, utilize your Porpsicles to keep him alive. He's just this threat that can trade with most things in the meta right now and not die, which is just really good. Of course, you don't get an on-play effect, and I find in Blue Steel, cards that don't have on-play effects are kind of not amazing. I don't know. It's either they've got to have an on-play effect or an amazing presence when you play them. So like, I'll use Ariel as the example again. She doesn't have an on-play, but once you play her, you instantly force the opponent to react to the card. Whereas Hercules is like, that's annoying, but I'll probably just let it sit around for a bit. And if I can take it out, I will. Zeus won't take it out as well. There you go. There's more application. It's going to be awkward for them on the board. It's going to control the board. You could use Popsicles to keep it alive. So yeah, I think that card's got loads of application in this deck. If you need something like that to stick on the board, I'd probably even look at Hercules over Chi-Pao just because it quests for 2, and I think it might be a bit better. It is 1 extra ink, but I think they're sort of in the same wheelhouse of just being awkward on the board for some decks, in my opinion. Simba, it's great. Actually, I'm going to mention Hercules as well. I haven't got Hercules on the list, which should have been there, because I've been playing No Will, and both those cards are like A-stars on those decks. I found a lot if you play Simba and you can get to a point where you play against a green steel, you take out one of their things and then they've got a 5/7 on board. So it's only we don't talk about Bruno that would deal with it. Otherwise, it's like a Zeus let the Storm Rage on, which has happened to me, which was really painful. That they had those 2 cards in hand. But yeah, it's a 5/7 into all steel matchups. Simba is I don't know the movie. I don't know if he's the king or not, but he is the king in the steel matchups. I don't know. I think he is the king. He's really good. Yeah, it's a 5/7, and you will be surprised how often you use that draw 2, discard 2, especially when you might be hunting for dime. Into RP, it's or red or any red matchups. It's hard to establish bigger characters because the board you never know when it's just going to wipe. But he is inkable, so he's pretty good into all steel matchups because he makes an instant threat that's really hard for them to deal with. It might soak up a world's greatest criminal, but that means you've got your towers a bit more safe, and this character got an on-play effect, so you've got some value, and then you soaked up a removal that could be safe for something else. And the same can be said for world's greatest criminal and for the card we didn't talk about, Bruno. So you'll play it, get your on-play, it'll either stick and be awkward, or it will soak up removal. So yeah, Simba's pretty good. Hades, just really good into Ruby matchups. Into Sapphire matchups, sorry. I'm going to pair both Ruby Sapphire and Blue Steel because Let It Go is great. Like if you need to put a Tower into the Inkwell, or you need to put any of their characters in the Inkwell. I mean, Tower is of course the biggest example, but with Hades, of course, you get a body on the board for paying the 2 extra ink. It's uninkable. Most lists will struggle with the uninkable slot. But if you're feeling a bit fearless with your uninks, I'd say just go for it a little bit and maybe include it and see how it feels for you. Because yeah, in the mirror, I played one mirror as well Saturday, and the effect of playing it, taking the tower out, and had a 3/6 that was going to quest for 2 the following turn was just really impactful. I mean, I don't need to over-explain Hades for a few players because if you've been on Blue Steel, you just know it's a good card. It's just the unink slot, and of course, I think it was inkable. We would play it 100% over Let It Go, in my opinion, because into Ruby matchups, you play it, you give them an ink, They probably board wipe or they Medusa it, and then you're way behind. So in that instance, you've given them an ink, and then they have taken it out with a cheaper character like Medusa, which kind of sucks. So I'm going to put that in Ruby Amethyst, but I'd say into Ruby Sapphire, that's not bad. You sort of force them to do that. But into Ruby Amethyst, because they don't ramp, you've just given them, yeah, it gets tricky, I'd say. But yeah, I don't need to say that card, it's very good. Yeah, like I say, equaling out the board, but also being ahead on the board instead of let it go, just equaling out the board by taking out something. Um, one more card I'm going to mention that's not on the list before I go is Scuttle. I played Scuttle a little bit. I found I couldn't get over playing it whiffing, but then putting like 3 dime targets at the bottom of my deck. That was just painful. But you know, that card's still good. The theory of that card is it will get you 4 cards closer to dime, or it will find you the dime. And in reality, in testing, it does do that. But the cards you sometimes put at the bottom of your deck could be like another wheel that you were looking for, the dime target and the bell, no, the dime target and the dime. So yeah, I'd say test it out, see how you feel on it. I think there are some very late game moments where Scuttle is just will win you the game because you play it, you find dime. So say if you had the dime targets in hand, there's no risk from the Scuttle. You just want to find the dime. So yeah, I'd play around with it. When you do add it or try it, don't think that this replaces your 2-drop slot. Don't take an Argus out for a Scuttle and then play Scuttle on 2, because against Ruby Amethyst, you know, they'll just flin and it's useless. Against a lot of matchups, it's just a 1-3 on board and it's not done too much for you. And if it finds the dime that early on, that's pretty bad for you. If it finds you a Porpsicle or a Quill, I guess that's alright. Maybe if you missed Quill on and you're going to miss it next turn, you could play it. But the thing is, you could play it and then get 4 cards, miss the Quill, but put like 2 Mickeys under your deck or something. You know, you just feel around with it. I think its best application, Scuttle, is when you play it later on in the game. Maybe you've wheeled a couple of times, you have dime targets in your hand, you're kind of steady with what you got, maybe you hear them a little bit. You could play a Scuttle, and that's going to get you 4 cards closer to the dime, which is going to find you the dime. So yeah, I think that card's worth mentioning, but sadly it's just not stacking around in any of my lists right now. Avalanche, that's the final card I'm going to talk about, and I think that has fallen off most lists. I haven't seen it. If the Unink slot is contested, Avalanche is not going in my list. It's the 1 damage, never really does anything into GS, doesn't do anything into any other matchup. Takes out location, but Titans does that and it's inkable, so you can ink it for the matchups you don't need it. So yeah, I'd say at this point Avalanche has been tried and tested, and it's not coming through very well. But yeah, I think that's some good pointers on what sort of has been discovered in the Blue Steel sort of deck recently. But like I say, I'd like it to be a growing thing. So even in comments, if you want to be like, maybe throughout the week, or even just message me. Everyone knows my Discord, or maybe I should put the link somewhere actually. Just message me like, hey, someone's trying this new thing out, or like, hey, I want a store champ's doing this thing, and I would love to be able to mention it here and like maybe like talk through it, and you know everyone gets to learn from it as well. We all get to keep growing as Blue Steel players. But yeah, no, great.